Sometimes life lets you down and you feel that you are done. You just want a morning run because the fun is all gone. But sometimes life makes you proud when you look far and wide, when you leave the pain behind and see the brighter side. TNC gives you inspiration. TNC reignites your passion. TNC starts your transformation. TNC helps you see the new you.
The new channel. The new channel. The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. We're here to help you see the new you. My name is Carmine Ortega and I'm streaming live from Marikina City. You're watching U-Turn. Good morning, U-Turners. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new week. So good morning sa inyong lahat. I hope you guys had a good weekend and I hope you're looking forward to a productive, meaningful, fun week ahead. Ayan, and I look forward to this week, especially because of today's episode. I'm really excited about today's episode because I just like the topic that we will be talking about. And I've been friends with our guest today. I've known him since early last year. Ayan, we'll tell you the story further a little later, but just know that I'm excited about this episode today. Ayan, so birthday greetings go out first to my one and only sister, Yai Ortega. Happy birthday to you. And also Kyle Adrian Imao, who was our guest earlier in this season, the second season of U-Turn. Happy birthday, Kyle. You're now, 21 years old? Ayan. And then also Jong Ikashano. Happy birthday to you, friend. Okay, so right now I would like to share with you our quote for today. The quote for today is, "Learn the past, watch the present, and create the future," by Jess Conrad. Ulit. Learn the past, watch the present, and create the future. To me, this simply means whatever happens in your life, diba? Of course, life goes on, so nagkakaroon ng past. Whatever happens in your life, always learn from it. So learn from the past, and then pag-aralan nyo how the past or previous actions are affecting your we should be choosing kung anong kinikilos natin so we can create our future. May isa pang saying, sabi niya, the best way to create the future is to design it or to create it, something like that. So to me, it's that simple. It pains me when I see people who let their lives pass by. So always be more self-aware, diba? Always think, know what you want, know how you can help people, how you can use your talents, how you can touch other people's lives. And I think that's how life can be meaningful for all of us. Okay, so ano ngayon kung may quote tayo, di ba? Well, the quote is really for goodwill and for inspiration. But aside from that, it's also a way for us to give away some gifts here on the show. And today, if you share our live stream on your page and leave your interpretation of the quote in the comment section, you could get this gift that we are giving away. So I'll show you the box first. It's a massager pen. Ayan, so it's handheld, it's battery operated, it's a massager pen. What it does actually is it uh, it sends micro electric currents to stimulate muscle, to relax muscle. It's a massager pen. So itong itsura niya out of the box. So ayan, handheld, and you can adjust the current, and only you can activate it. If you're holding it, it will activate itself. But if you do it on someone else, hindi yun mangyayari. So it's safe. It's safe. It cannot be abused. All right. So remember, share our live stream and leave your interpretation in the comment section of the main live stream of the show. Ayan po ang ating quote: learn from the past, watch the present, and create the future. All right. And if you're watching a watch party, best to leave your comments sa main show namin, sa main live stream. That way we can see your interpretation. Okay? Ayan. Okay, hindi ko na patatagalin. I am excited to introduce our guest. Our guest has a fascinating story to tell about a property that their family owns. Okay? I won't preempt that. I will let the video that's coming up very soon introduce the story to us, and then we will let our guest in. Okay, you will see that our guest is Mr. Jimmy C, and you will see him in the video. Let's watch it.
Well, I discovered the house when I was attending college in Ateneo de Manila. In one of my research work in the library, I came across a book written by Father William Repetti, a Jesuit, who was connected with the Manila Observatory. He was not a historian, but he was interested in the Jesuit properties. So he was in Cebu and found that this house was a Jesuit house. In 2007, I decided to open the house to the public. Then later, I came into contact with an architect from University of Shiga, architect Professor Juan Jimenez, and he was the one who encouraged me, who helped us in working for the conservation and preservation of the house. This was how we got in touch with Escuela Taller. And from there, the house now is an architectural house for study. As we were doing some excavation or repair of the pillars, we got the interest of the University of San Carlos, and through Dr. John Peterson of the University of Guam, they are now starting to make archaeological study. I hope I will get more help from the general public in my endeavor, not only to preserve the house, but to preserve the history of Cebu.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome today's guest, founder and owner of 1730 Jesuit House Museum, Mr. Jimmy C., all the way from Cebu City.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. C.
Good
How
morning
are
to
you doing this
you.
morning?
Great.
Yes,
I'm excited to be here.
right,
I'd like to greet also all our viewers and thank you very much for inviting me to your show.
right, right. Thank you. The pleasure is ours, and I'm very happy to feature Jesuit House Museum because for some reason it's very close to my heart.
I
Right.
wonder why.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I visited the museum early in 2019. I was in Cebu City for work, and I've been to Cebu City for work several times, but I always just went to the office in Cebu, back to the hotel, maybe eat out, and then back to the office, and then back to the hotel. I never seen the rest of the city. I mean, I did when I was much younger, but that was a long, long time ago. So this trip in 2019, I decided I will, at least go around the city. And upon research, I found out that there's this fascinating story about the 1730 Jesuit House Museum. So, sir, let's talk about that. When you were
Yes.
in college, you were looking at the video said that, no, and that's the main story really. When you were in college, you were in the library at the Ateneo and you were looking at a book. You said this book was by father
Father Repetti.
um, Father Repetti, right?
Yes.
And so when you leafed through the pages, you saw a familiar picture, right?
Correct. Yes.
And then what were your initial thoughts when you saw the
I
picture?
was I was shocked. I said, why is this house in the book that I was looking at? And I
Mhm.
only to find out that it is actually a Jesuit house. And
Right.
Father William Ripete actually, it was the one who identified this house as a Jesuit house. The previous owner didn't even know that it was a Jesuit house.
Mm-hmm.
There are three things that he saw in this house to confirm that it's a Jesuit house. Outside the gate, there are three seals. Uh, on the left is the seal of Mama Mary, and then the middle is the seal of Jesus Christ, and to the right is the seal of Saint Joseph. When he went in, again, before going up to the house, another seal was on top of the entrance, and that was the Jesuit seal.
Right.
Uh,
I think we have photos ready so the viewers can
oh,
also
okay.
see. These are
Uh,
actually pages from the book.
yes,
So on
right.
on the left is the cover, right? And
Yes,
then that's the seal that you're talking about. In the
yes.
second slide, I think just above the door in the second image, that's where the three seals are. Correct.
Uh-huh. Yes, on the entrance.
Mhm. Right. Sir, which photo, was the most telling for you na bahay namin yan or property namin yan? Which of the photos here?
The one with the acacia tree, and the one that the sketch drawing at the bottom.
Ah, okay, okay. I see.
Because that is where the new entrance is. So as soon
Right,
as you come in, that's the first thing you will see. And that's how I was able to identify the house
right.
to be our Jesuit house, you know.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. And this book is a book about Jesuit architecture,
Jesuit properties, actually. Churches,
Jesuit
houses,
properties.
yes.
Okay, I see. And then, so when you saw that this really was your property, what did you want to do? Like what were your instincts to tell your father or call them, tell your teacher, the librarian?
Immediately, I had the book copied, and I sent it to my dad. And my dad was not really that interested or excited as I am. Why? Because probably he doesn't really care about Jesuits. But me
Mm-hmm,
being trained by the Jesuits, I became interested.
mm-hmm.
So, but the excitement continued after my graduation because then we started receiving guests. guests, especially from the Jesuit group, the Jesuit priests, uh, visiting the house. I said, this house must be something interesting to them. And finally, um, I got to contact later when I was planning to make it into a museum. I contacted Father Rene Havillana of Ateneo. He's now the present art historian and the Jesuit archivist in Ateneo. I asked him to come down and to look at the place. And he did. He brought down two architects, actually, to look at the place. And he said, well, what do you plan to do? I said, why not make a museum out of it? But I really don't know how to do it. That's not my line of business. So he said, okay, no problem. I'll write the concept paper for it. And all you have to do is just follow what I've written. And in 2 weeks' time, I got the paper from him. And that was it. We started. And how did we start? I had my cousin, who is an architect, to check on the house. I said, I think it's about time we should open this house to the public as a museum. But before we do that, we have to check on the structure of the house. And I need his help to check on everything, whether the house is still strong enough to accommodate guests or visitors. So we started doing it from the columns. Unfortunately, we've noticed that some of the columns have already started to sink. And well, the best thing to do, of course, was to dig open and make sure that they're still okay. And then we found out that some are no longer connected to the original column underground.
Right.
Probably
I think
because-
later we will.
Yes.
Sorry, we will have some photos later that will show that. But Mr. C, my question now is, I still would like to talk about the Jesuits. So, because of that discovery, of course, they eventually found out, right? Because you shared the information with them. So they were naturally excited and they, purposely, intentionally visited the house.
Exactly, yes. Yes.
Go on.
No, the Jesuit priests are becoming in and out. A lot of them. I could name a few. Father Kilong, Father Borromeo. They're all Cebuano Jesuits. And they've been so excited coming here and looking at the house. In fact, they were asking me, what do I intend to do with the house? I said, I don't know. At that time, I have no idea what to do with the house. Until when I was about to retire, I thought of, well, maybe we should do something about the house. And that's how I contacted Father Rene Havillana.
Right. That came years later pa. Pero
Yes.
sir, at the time of the discovery, so it was your family owns this hardware and then the property is the bodega.
Yes.
So at the time of the discovery, the house itself, what did it look like? Was it full of, construction materials?
Yes.
Was it like that?
Yes. When I finished college, I came back 1972. I actually lived in the house for 2 years. The area was already used as bodega. But when I left, they started to put stocks or merchandise inside the house. So the whole house was practically used as a bodega. That was how that's how I could picture how the house was. Using it as a bodega. You go around, you will see stocks all over.
Right. So you couldn't see the features of the house, of the original
really.
house, not very much.
Not really. Not until. Yes. Go ahead.
Not until you saw the book or not until you cleared.
No, not until we cleared everything by 2007.
Wow. It took that
It took
long.
some time. Yes.
Pero you've always known of the existence of the seals. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
You've
yes.
always known that. Okay.
Yes. Although
You just didn't know what to make of it, what to make of them.
that's right. And I know the seals that they were Jesuit seal, but I could not tell the story or fully understand the seal, why they were there, and why is it there. Like, I will explain to you also why Father Javiliana finally confirmed that this house was also a Jesuit house because of the seal, the bas relief, which says Anno 1730.
Right.
It's in the book. I don't know if you can show it again. Anyway, underneath.
We will show it. We will show it again.
Yeah.
All right.
1730.
There. The next slide, please. There.
That's a Jesuit seal. There's Anno 1730. You were on the left. You will notice under 1730, there's a moon shape underneath.
Mm-hmm.
That, to the Jesuit, symbolizes Mama Mary. You know, the Jesuits are very
Marianne.
close to Mama, very Marianne, very close to Mama
Right.
Mary. Because St. Ignatius Loyola, when he became devoted completely to the religion, to the Catholicism, he surrendered his sword to Mama Mary in Montserrat. It's a monastery in Spain. And he surrendered his sword to Mama Mary as a symbol that he was going to be fully devoted for the church,
Right.
for Mama
Right.
Mary. Yeah.
And then the other seal shows.
The other seal shows the Jesuit seal. Now, it's very common that you see JHS or IHS in any churches. But the Jesuit seal is different because it has 3 pieces of nail underneath, which looks like, like this. That is the Jesuit seal. That's how you identify it from other JHS or IHS seal.
Right. Right. Okay, so these are proof that they belong to the Jesuits and that the house
Yes.
has been in existence since the early 1700s. So does the year indicate when it was built or when it was completed? What's the date?
Okay, that's a problem now. We don't have documents to tell us when they started, when was it done. But you could say that the seal, which says 1730, probably indicates that was the year it was built or done completely. Many architects told me that you cannot build this house in 1 year or in 6 months. It's impossible.
Right.
It probably took many years to do it. So, we surmise that probably 1730 probably was the year that it was done, completely done.
Correct. Okay. All right. So, Mr. C, we'll have more questions, but for now, we will go on break. Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Welcome back to U-Turn on the new channel. We stream live Mondays and Thursdays at 10:30 in the morning here on Facebook and also on YouTube. So please remember to follow our pages, like us, like our channels, and subscribe so you can watch U-Turn always and also our other inspirational shows. So speaking of our other inspirational shows, I'd like to tell you a little bit about them and I'd like to invite you to watch them. Let's start with The Big Picture. It shares inspiring stories of notable personalities Mondays to Fridays at 7 p.m. HR Hotline introduces us to the wonderful world of human resources management Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 12 noon. Have an insightful Saturday afternoon because the family business is everyone's business at 4 p.m. The fourth project is about life, business, and success stories live from Dubai, UAE, 6 p.m. or 10 p.m. here in the Philippines on Saturdays. Usapang Beauty is about beauty beyond what your eyes can see, Thursdays and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. The world has faced an unprecedented pandemic. It's time to hear positive stories straight from those who recovered from the virus infection. COVID stories on Saturdays at 10:30 in the morning. The home buyer is where you can hear remarkable stories about building and owning a property Mondays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Laugh and learn about puppetry arts from all over the world. The Puppet Stories, Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Magbenta, bumili at tumulong dahil bukas na ang TNC Marketplace, an online night bazaar, Thursdays and Fridays at 10 p.m. YOLO is for all of us to appreciate that the law can be fun and cool, Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Watch and learn about money and more. It streams live from the Philippines and the US, Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Philippine time and 5:30 a.m. Pacific time in the US. Two leaders in one platform, TNC The Talk on Mondays at 12 noon. So right after you turn later, at 12 o'clock, it's time for TNC The Talk. Watch out for it. After Shift is a chillaxin show about your choices and lives at work, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8:30 p.m. Discover and learn strategies on self-leadership to win in life through Win Within, Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Dream, achieve, and nurture. Sorry, dream, achieve, nurture, and inspire. Tag your kids along and watch Danny Art Show Fridays at 5:30 p.m. Global issues, common interests. Let's learn together across borders with Foreign Affairs, streaming on Tuesdays at 10:30 in the morning. Because health is wealth, Healthline on Wednesdays and Fridays at 4 p.m. Awesome Day is on Mondays at 2:30 p.m. Make sure to make your day an awesome day. So we have that later as well. Start your Saturdays celebrating women at work at 9 a.m. on Saturdays. In a world where everything is turning out digital, CyberNext aims to empower people and companies to be secure in a digital world. Wednesdays at 12 noon. TechU helps you understand the emerging technologies shaping our future, Fridays at 2:30 p.m. Also, catch our TNC originals like One Day, it's an inspiring 30-minute storytelling. It alternates with TNC Town Hall, which is co-hosted by TNC founders Lloyd and Apple. And this is where we talk to you, our valued audience, about our shows on TNC. There will be more coming up because we continue to grow. Please remember to follow our channel on Facebook and YouTube and let us help you see the new you. Yan, dami, we're growing. Yes, you can see our posters. Well, our images are getting smaller because there's more of us in the image. For now, I'd like to say hello to some people who I know are watching. Ma'am Cholita Esplana, I know you're watching from Tarlac. Good morning to you. I'm glad you can join us today. We have a very informative, very interesting episode. I'm sure you can tell. Also watching, though, although they're quiet, I know they're watching. My mom is watching, Pura Ortega. Ma, thank you for watching. And also my acupuncturist, Chris Parungao. She's the owner of Tao of Inner Peace Acupuncture Center. Kahapon lang nandun ako sa clinic. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so let's call our guest back in because we have more to talk about. Mr. Jimmy C is joining us all the way from Cebu City. All right. Mr. C, let's go
Yes.
back to uh, talking about the house. But this time in terms of the Jesuits living there, was it a simple house? Was it a frugal house, or was it like, opulent? What are the findings, or what does this research say?
Okay, maybe many of you would ask the question, why were the Jesuits in Parian?
Okay.
It's very interesting. When the Jesuit came around 1600, the bishop of Cebu at the time uh, gave the task to the Jesuit to evangelize the Chinese in Parian area. And the Jesuits were more than happy to do that. Why? Because they have their eyes on China. And when
I
the
see.
Jesuit evangelize a community, they normally start through inculturation. In other words, they try to learn the customs, they try to learn their languages, and that would put them in, parang to be accepted in the group. So the Jesuits were so happy to be assigned in Parian, although not very long. Now, at that time, the vice provincial the, of the Jesuit was assigned in Cebu. And many will not believe this, but under his jurisdiction, Guam was included in his territory. So it's it's unbelievable that Cebu, being a headquarter of the Jesuits for the vice provincial, and he has jurisdiction up to Guam. Now, I don't know why they did it, but that was what happened. That was the assignment given.
I see.
Then, yes. And later on, the Jesuits were given the task to go out and evangelize the nearby provinces like Camotes, Bohol. That's why you will find a lot of churches in Bohol constructed by the Jesuits.
I see. I see. Okay. And then I think we have a couple of photos of the interior of the house. So, sorry, this is the entrance. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Jesuit house is within a compound. It's within a big property. Pero looking from the outside, you will not know that it's there currently. And what you will see is the entrance to the bodega, which is the photo on the left. And then when you enter, you will see the house itself. That's the picture on the right. But you will also see construction materials all around it. That's because that's part of the story of the house. That's how the house developed. Again. So was it a simple house? Was it considered a simple house or a big house? Like you're privileged if you live in such a house.
It was really a big house. I mean, for those times, it's a big house. Uh, but then the previous owner has divided into rooms, and they could even accommodate 5 or 6 families, from what I know. It was a big family. The Alvarez family was a big family. So they could accommodate 5 or 6 families.
I see. Okay. So your family bought the property some years ago from the Alvarez family.
Correct. Yes.
Did they say anything about changes they made to the house, how it was when they found it?
Actually, they did not give us a lot of details of the house, except for a fact that it was sold to them by a certain Spaniard, and his name is uh, Garcia.
Garcia.
Garcia, who was actually working for Tabacalera. Well,
I
according
see.
to them, this guy Garcia, Cristobal Garcia, was leaving for Spain. And so he sold the house, including his business, which was a howling business for Tabacalera, to the Alvarezes.
I see.
That was
I
early
see.
1900.
Right. Okay. So I'd like to show a picture of the interiors of the house. Um, because you said this really was a storage for supplies, right? This
Yes.
didn't look like this when you found it
No.
or when you rediscovered it. And for now, you're putting in uh, items to recreate the
Yes.
previous age, right?
All the furnishings are not original.
Okay.
That's what I always want to emphasize. All the furnishings are not original. It's the house that is original. When I say the house, the roof, uh, the walls, the columns, the beams, these are all original, but not the furnishing. I just included all
Right.
the furnishing by myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do some
And
people
some of
help
them are
you?
reproduction. Oh,
Do
yes.
some people help you? Determine the correct date, the correct period, uh, when those items existed or were in fashion.
Yes, we had some people to help us, but it's not easy to find furnishing that would date back to the year like 1700. It's
Correct.
kind of
Correct.
difficult. Yeah.
Right.
So we just put whatever we can.
Right.
Anyway, the
And
house
then
has went through a lot of transformation.
right. Right. Okay. So we have how about in terms of architecture? What are the influences on the design of the house? I think we can easily see the Spanish influence, but then I think there are other influences, right?
Okay. What's interesting about this house is it tells you, after analyzing everything, it tells you that this house was built by Chinese craftsmen. We're in Parian, and Parian was actually a Chinese ghetto. So this house, that architecture is very Chinese. It's in Chinese architecture, it's called the dugong system. There's no nail. They never use nail. What they did is they just fitted everything. Like the beams are fitted on the columns, and everything are just fitted. That is why when we had the 2013 earthquake, nothing happened to the house. It only
Right.
swayed. It
I
swayed.
see.
It was like dancing. Why? Because there was no nail. There was no fixed thing to hold the beams, to the columns, and
Right.
everything. It was just dancing and nothing.
Tra-
We didn't even have a broken glass.
Traditional houses or palaces in China, Japan, and Korea were made the same way, right?
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
why
That's
they've
why you know.
withstood the test of
Yes.
time.
That's why you've never heard of pagoda collapsing.
Right. Right. Sir, we have here photos of the columns or parts of the columns, right? You mentioned that earlier. It was one of the problems that you encountered when you wanted to start restoring the house. Can you tell us about it?
Okay. When we started in the reconstruction stage, we've noticed some of the beam and the columns are not already connected properly. So obviously you have to check on the column. And we started digging to see if everything is still okay. And that's where we found out that there are already columns which were broken underground. Now, why does this happen? A German timber expert came to us and said, "You know what's happening there? It's not the termite, it's the temperature." He calls it, that's where heaven and hell meets. Because the temperature of the water, because actually underground, after digging to 1 meter, it's already water. And that is
Yes.
the reason also. That is the reason also why the Chinese were settled here in this area. Water was abundant. Okay, going back to the columns. Because
Right.
of the water, the temperature changes very often from cold to hot, and that is the reason why it start to cracks. That area where the
Right.
water is, it start to cracks, and that is the reason why it finally got broken. Imagine this house is already what, 280 years old.
Right.
So
Right.
that was the first thing we did. So we have to fix the column.
Right.
Now in the process, if I may continue, in the
Yes. Yes.
process, in the process of repairing the columns, we became archaeologists. We had
Right. We
dug
have
out.
photos of some of the findings. So as you dug around the columns,
Yes,
you cut them, right? And that's those
yes,
pieces that we're seeing are
yes,
what you cut off, and you just kept them in the gallery.
yes,
And, and you found some things
And
as you dug.
we found a lot of things actually.
I think
Uh,
we have photos of them
uh-huh. Maybe you can show them.
there.
Yes, this is some of them. We found a lot of porcelain shards, potteries, broken potteries, woods, uh, bones, animal bones, shells. So which tells us that of course at that time, before the house was built, we believe the natives or the Cebuanos were already residing in this area, although it was a marshland.
Mhm.
And probably they were here because they're closer to the seashore, to the
Right,
shoreline, and that's why you find shells. That was their food, means of
right,
livelihood. They have to fish, and then we found that particular cannonball, which is very interesting. Uh,
right. So was it Spanish?
yes,
I suppose it was
definitely it's
Spanish.
Spanish. Now we can theorize that this cannonball was shot from the boat of Magellan, from the galleon of Magellan, because he
Wow.
was entering in from the eastern part of the city, coming down from Leyte, and he was, as soon, according to Pigafetta, his chronicler, in his book, as soon as they entered Cebu, they started shooting cannonballs. That was
Hmm.
probably to scare the people, just to scare the natives. And we
Right.
found one, and this is the only cannon that we found, and it's a very, it's an artifact to tell people that the Spaniard really did fire cannonballs on us.
Right. Wow, that's really interesting. A cannonball. So that if that really was from Magellan, then that's even older, much older than the house
Yes, older
by at
than the
least
house.
150 years.
Definitely yes.
Wow. Okay. So how many items were you able to find, sir?
In the first diggings, I mean that was not official digging because we were actually repairing the columns. We found about more than 1,000 pieces, I think. But
Okay.
later, we had Dr. John Peterson of the University of Guam, who came and got permission from National Museum to do a formal digging together with the University of San Carlos. And they dug out more than 5,000 items.
Wow.
They were,
Wow.
what they were doing was more scientific in a way. What we were doing earlier was not scientific. We were repairing the column, so that's how we found the artifacts. In their case, it was done in a more scientific way, and he had also carbon dated a lot of things.
And they do date back to early
Some
1700s.
some items dated even back to 1400.
Wow. That's
Yes,
really amazing. And so are all of these items on display in the museum?
and I cannot display all of them. It's too many. It's a lot of them. So I have to choose only a few items, that can be
Right,
shown to the public.
right. And it must be a kind of nightmare to, knowing that you have something really precious and the responsibility that comes with having those things.
That's how I became so interested in this house. I thought my father only bought an antique, and later it turned out to be an historic house. And then it turned out to be an archaeological area where we can find a lot of things that can tell us about the past of Cebu, which to me is very important. Like
Right,
when you started the show, you mentioned about the past, treasuring the past. That is very true. And
right.
from what we gathered, we can come out a lot of theories, or probably later on we can finally tell a clearer story of how Cebu started, how
Right.
Parian developed.
Right. I think we've only just started. As far as the house is concerned, you've only just started. Although you started in 2007, right? You've only just started. It's just the tip of the iceberg. I think there will be more to learn. I have a question about the diggings. Are the diggings confined around the base of the columns, or are there
When
other
we,
areas?
yeah, when Dr. Peterson uh, started to dig, he concentrated on an area which is very, which is actually close and under also the area where there was a watchtower built on top. And
Right.
that's how we found out that the watchtower actually is older than the house itself because of the way it was constructed. However, it is still subject to further investigation by architects and archaeologists.
Right. Right. And perhaps historians as well.
True.
That's really interesting. Maybe later we can go back to that picture with the tower. But for now, Mr. C, we will go on break, okay? And we'll be right back.
Yes.
Welcome back to U-Turn on the new channel. We stream live Mondays and Thursdays here on Facebook and also on YouTube. Remember our hashtag U-Turn on TNC, and remember to like our page and our channel. Please follow, please subscribe, and all of that. Okay, and I encourage you to watch all our other shows as well. You will find them on the page and also on the channel. Okay, let's get back to our interview with Mr. C, founder of 1730 Jesuit House. Okay, so it was once upon a time a bodega and it is now a museo. So that's really something special. And I believe you tell this story almost every day. Do you not ever get tired of telling the story?
No, I love it. I love guiding. I love touring guests because you can never tell. They came from all sorts of they would come in and not tell you who they are, and they come from different professions. They could be from the academies, they could be architects, they could be historians, and it's nice to share with them. They also have
Right.
things to contribute. Like I mentioned, the German timber expert. I never knew that he was an expert, but he came in and he told me that this is that, and that's how you get more information.
That's nice. That's really nice. So since converting it into a museum, what are the main parts of the museum? I mean, there's the museum, there's the house. How do you organize the spaces when explaining it to a guest, for example?
Okay, like underground, or not underground really, but on the lower floor, we believe in the past it was used as a bodega.
Right.
where they store
Typical.
food. Typical,
Yes.
very typical, because they don't have, they imagine they don't have the facilities that we have today, like going to a supermarket or what, so maybe they have to store their goods uh, at the lower floor, and on top would be the residence. And so
I see.
that's more or less how. But there is an area where we suspect was a chapel, the Jesuit Gallery, where we had the statue of Saint Ignatius Loyola. We have the suspicion that this area was a chapel. Our restoration architect, Dr. Juan Jimenez Verdejo, believes it was a chapel because it has a different door. It has a door on itself. And probably the parishioners were not allowed to go up to the house, so they had to create this special door for the parishioner to come in. They don't have to go through the main house. Actually, they just go through this door, and this was a room, like it must have been a chapel.
I see. Okay. And then so when we visit, for example, when somebody visits the museum, the first place that they go to is the gallery area. Is that what they call it?
Yes, we have
And
three galleries.
what do you feature in the galleries?
We have the gallery that talks of the history of the Parian Church. That was, well, initially taken care of by the Jesuit, but it didn't last long. It was passed over, I think, to the what do you call it, to the diocese. And the demolition and the story of the church, the demolition of the church. It's very interesting. And then we have another gallery that talks of the story or the evolution of the Parian district, how it evolved from a Chinese ghetto to become a district wherein mostly Chinese mestizo ended up
Right.
staying and became wealthy in the area because of commerce and
Right.
trading.
Is
And then, yes.
I have a
And
question. Why is it called Parian? Is there a significance to the name of the
you
area?
know, it's very interesting. I've been trying to trace the word Parian myself. I thought it's a Mexican word at first. But when I met the Japanese expert on Mexico, he said, no, there's no such word as Parian in Mexico. In fact, they use the word Parian in Mexico to signify a market area of goods being sold coming from the east. In other words, coming from Philippines, from
Right.
the southeast area. So so I don't know. I could not even trace it as a Chinese word. Maybe I will have to ask my historian's friend later
Right.
on how
Maybe.
this word come in. It's not a
Probably.
Tagalog. It's not a Chinese
So
derivative word.
it's not related to pare, for example, because I believe there were a
Well,
lot of
that is one
convents or
theory.
seminaries.
Okay,
One
that is
theory.
one theory.
I see.
But I don't think it is that accurate. I
Okay.
don't think so.
Okay.
It could be,
All right. Mhm.
but it's not
Oh,
confirmed.
right. So you have the galleries at the basement or the lower level of the house, right?
Yes.
History of Cebu, and then
And then the
uh,
Jesuit Gallery
Jesuit Gallery. Okay.
that talks of the history of Jesuits.
Mhm. Okay. And then what follows after that in the tour?
Then we bring the guests up to the house, to where the house is.
Okay. So in the traditional sense, the museum is in the ground floor. Like you have displays, you have the archaeological findings there. But
Yeah,
then the tour of the house is on the second floor.
on the second floor. That's why we call this museum a lifestyle museum.
Right. Right. My question for you is, which is your favorite part of the entire Jesuit house?
Or maybe the room.
The
I
roof.
I lived in that room for 2 years before when I got married in 1972. My father told me to stay here when he was building a house for me. Said you stay in that room. So
Oh,
that
the
was my
room.
favorite part, the room,
I see.
and that's where my first child was born in that at that time when we stayed
That's
there.
nice. That's nice. So the room. Okay. And then so let's invite them, sir. Let's invite the audience to come to, when the pandemic is no longer bothering
Yes.
us, no longer part of our normal lives. We want to go back to the old normal. Let's invite them to visit the
Please
Jesuit
come to
House.
Cebu. Come to Cebu and visit the Jesuit House. And not only Jesuit House,
Right.
you have to visit the old town of Cebu. You see, we are now very well organized. Uh, we have a museum association called CVAM, Central Visayas Association of Museum and Galleries. And when you come to Cebu, it's never complete unless you visit all of our museums around the area, which
Right.
tells the story of how Cebu evolved. You will visit the Fort San Pedro, you will visit Museo Subu, the Casa Gorordo house, which is also in Parian, the Val San Diego house in Parian, the Cathedral Museum, and the cathedral churches, the Basilica. These are beautiful places where
Right.
everybody can have a glimpse of what Cebu was in the past, how it
Right.
developed from a small section to what it is now. Of course, at the end of the tour, you will probably end up going to the malls and having lunch or dinner.
Right. Right. Yes, I agree with Mr. C. The Parian area and the heritage areas are must visits when in Cebu City. Um, there are houses that are hundreds of years old and they're very well maintained. You can walk right through them. You can look at the items in the area. Some of the plants are even you know just as old. There's a vine at the Casa Gorordo that's over
Oh, yes,
100 years
yes,
old.
that's
Yes,
true.
right. Mr. C, before we wrap up the show, I'd like to ask you who are some people that you would like to thank related to the project?
Oh, I have to thank so many people. First of all, I have to thank my cousin Tony Abelgas, architect Tony Abelgas, and the UAP architects, his group, who helped in the creation of the museum. And of course, without whose effort we cannot do anything, was the concept paper written by Father Rene Havillana. And also the restoration architect, Juan Jimenez Verdejo, my Spanish friend, who is now a professor in Japan, teaching architecture at Shiga University. He helped. He had extended a lot of help to the restoration of the place, and of course to the Jesuits in general, who have contributed their expertise, and of course I should not forget Escuela Talier. Escuela Talier has given us a lot of support in as far as teaching us on how to repair the house. And I'm very grateful also uh, to Tina Bulao, and ex-chairman Jaime Laya, who was at that time the chairman of Escuela Talier when we signed the MOA for as to be the beneficiary of their effort. And also, of course, to San Carlos University. They have been helping us in making the CMP. We call it CMP, the conservation management of the place.
All
And I
right.
guess that's about it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You're right. There are so many people to thank. I think it's because so many people love the project. Some people are fascinated by the story, the history, the discovery, the architecture, the archaeological findings. There's so many facets to the Jesuit house, actually.
Exactly. I mean, our program is not long enough to allow me
Correct.
to tell you more.
I agree. There are many stories, about this corner of the house. There's a story that, and I'd like to take this opportunity to share this little story that Mr. C told me. When he was about to enter college, he wanted to go to LaSalle, but his father wanted him to attend the Ateneo. So sinong masusunod? The father. So I went to the Ateneo. And, if he had not gone to the Ateneo, he wouldn't have found the book. He wouldn't have made the discovery. So it's
Exactly.
little
Yes.
stories like that. Mr. C, somebody's saying hi. Chino Ahoro, who is one of the
Hi.
hosts here on the new channel, is
Okay. Hi, Chino.
saying hi. Right. Okay. So, Mr. C, thank you very much for sharing your time with us,
Thank you
sharing
very
with
much.
us your story, relating us. Like you said, there's so much more to tell there, and there's so much more to learn. So I encourage the viewers to take the opportunity to visit the Jesuit House in Parian in Cebu City together with the other heritage sites to learn more. And if you can't right now, please look up videos on YouTube. There are bloggers who have featured it. There are articles all around it. There are legends about the house, so feel free to look them up.
And I would like to thank you also for inviting me, Carmen, to the show.
Sure. Of course, you're welcome. And thank you for agreeing to share your story here on the show. I'll talk to you again, sir. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Oh, one more person is saying something. Audrey Don Tomada is
Oh
saying
yes.
visit the
She was
17th.
she was she was one of those who helped also in the
Right.
uh, in the research of the house.
Right. Hi,
I forgot to
Audrey.
mention her name.
Right. And I'd like to say hi to Misaki also. I chatted with Misaki briefly because I was trying to get hold of you and I chanced upon their page on Facebook. All right. So, Mr. C, once again, thank you very much. Please stay backstage. I'll see you backstage. Okay. Don't
Okay.
leave just yet.
All
All
right.
right. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
All right. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from Mr. Jimmy C., founder of the 1730 Jesuit House in Parian, Cebu City. It's one of the must visit places in Cebu. It has a fascinating story. Once upon a time, to him, it was just a bodega, but then upon seeing uh, a book, he saw that their property was actually a Jesuit residence. And so, ayun na, the rest is history, and they continue to learn more about the property. You can follow them on Facebook. Just find 1730 Jesuit House on Facebook. That's how you can, see photos, or you can communicate with them if you want to get in touch with them. All right. So on Thursday, abangan po ninyo, we have another guest who has a story to tell. He was a dance instructor turned video maker, and then he will turn into farming. O, diba? Very interesting. Our guest is Ellie Damasin, so please watch out for that. That's on Thursday at 10:30 in the morning. So remember that you turn on TNC streams live on Mondays and Thursdays at 10:30 in the morning. Remember to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Right now, not right now, in a few minutes, no, at 12 o'clock, please stay tuned to watch TNC The Talk, and you will hear from two speakers in one platform, so please stay tuned. Thank you very much to our production team, of course, our founders, Lloyd and Apple, and our production team, especially Mabin for today, who's just recovering from being ill. I'm glad you're back. So thank you for your support, and also Jay for supporting us in the past episodes. All right, so thank you everyone. I'll let you go now. Go and have lunch. Enjoy your lunch. Bye.